Just as planned, the inheritance will be mine. I heard my husband's voice just before losing consciousness. After finishing my doctor's appointment and while heading home, a car suddenly drove towards me. When I realized, it was too close and I couldn't escape being hit. Amidst the severe pain and fading consciousness, I heard my husband's earlier words. What did he mean by inheritance? Why was my husband even there? I tried to make sense of it but lost consciousness without seeing him again. 3 days later, when I woke up, I saw on TV my husband pretending to be the grieving, good husband involved in his wife's accident, and my anger exploded. He orchestrated everything and yet he's garnering sympathy, pretending to be a good person. I couldn't forgive that. I decided I couldn't let him have his way anymore and resolved to take revenge. My name is Mary Turner, 29 years old. I'm a music teacher. I've always loved playing the piano and dreamed of becoming a pianist since I was young. Despite practicing desperately every day and somehow making it to music college, I was overwhelmed by the high level of competition and eventually gave up, becoming a music teacher instead. I'm currently working in a local public middle school in Nebraska, not just teaching but also advising the choir, keeping my days busy. Being a teacher is demanding but rewarding, as the kids look up to me, calling me teacher and making my days fulfilling. Last year, I married Ken, my college sweetheart, and was at the peak of my happiness both personally and professionally. However, that didn't last long. Ken was simply irresponsible. Working at a bar, his work hours were irregular due to serving alcohol, with late starts and ends to his shifts. Our routines clashed, leading us to grow apart. He would often come home drunk in the early hours, and I'd find him passed out at the entrance. Initially, I understood it was part of his job. But coming home tired to find clothes strewn about, and the table cluttered with scattered fast food wrappings and finished Coke bottles, my irritation grew. Ken, put your clothes in the washer. And can't you clean up your own mess? What? Chill out, I'll do it later. You always say later and never do it. Do it now. He would frown and click his tongue in response. If you're so bothered by it, why don't you do it yourself? Such a nagging woman. What? I'm exhausted from work every day. Why should I have to take care of Ken too? Can't you take care of yourself for once? I'm tired too, you know. Do you think you're the only one who's tired? Or do you think you're better because you earn more? When I denied it, Ken sighed. Then Mary should do it. Don't be so bossy. Saying that, Ken lazily flopped down on the couch and started fiddling with his smartphone. Despite having shorter working hours than me, he never helps with the housework and just goes out drinking at his leisure, only to come home and sleep. In the end, I end up doing all the cleaning and laundry. Lately, we haven't even gone out on dates, and we just argue more and more. Ken is very handsome, and during college, he was so popular that he had fans from neighboring colleges. I felt superior just for being able to marry him. During our dating period, I was head over heels for the gentlemanly Ken, but now I don't even know why I married him. But people have their good points and bad points. I thought it was okay if his personality was a bit difficult since he was good looking, so I decided to endure it. Half a year after we got married. Ken usually goes out even on his days off, was acting restless one morning. Then, as I finished cleaning up after breakfast, Ken called out to me. The truth is, the bar's been doing poorly lately, and I'm short on cash. Can you lend me some? What? Are you out of money? What did you spend it on? He had been saying that his salary was reduced for a few months now, so he couldn't pay for living expenses. Since his salary should be all his to spend, I couldn't believe he was still short on money. You know, I go out drinking for social reasons, right? Alcohol costs money. If it's really for the bar, you should get expenses covered. It's strange to pay out of your own pocket. Well, it's not exactly that. I mean, I think I need to know about other bars' menus and such for research. Ken, stammering, seemed suspicious. How much do you need? You'll give it to me? $400. $400 will do. When I sighed, Ken happily hugged me. I'm disgusted by his smooth-talking ways, but I always get wrapped up in his charm. When I took out $400 from my wallet and handed it to him, Ken hugged me again. I'm so glad I married Mary. Thank you so much. Even though I was fed up with Ken, we had been arguing a lot lately, so I was thrilled to be hugged. And I felt I had to support Ken, who was struggling with his job. But then, Ken started asking for money every month. The amount he wanted kept increasing, and before I knew it, I was giving him $2,000 a month as an allowance. For me, just a teacher, it was quite tough to pay an extra $2,000 a month on top of living expenses. Despite my efforts to save, my money kept dwindling, and my savings were nearly gone. Ken, can you return some of the money I gave you, even just a little? What? Why all of a sudden? The money was a gift, wasn't it? Why should I have to return it? We're struggling to make ends meet. If I keep giving you money, we won't even be able to pay for gas or water. When I approached Ken before he went to work, he frowned as if annoyed. I can't help it, my salary is too low. You could if you tried saving a bit, like cutting back on eating out. But I do that for the bar. Are you trying to interfere with my job? Then you should just sell your piano. He said it would fetch a good price and left the house. My piano is as precious to me as life itself. It was bought by my father when I was 2 years old. As a music teacher, I need to practice, and there's no way I can part with it. Yet Ken, who goes out drinking nonchalantly, said such cold things, and I was filled with anger. After that, I stopped talking to Ken. He didn't try to speak to me either, and it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say our marriage was falling apart. Just when I was contemplating divorce, an incident occurred. I felt a sharp pain in my wrist while playing the piano. The pain from my wrist to my fingertips grew intense, becoming unbearable. When I went to the doctor, I was diagnosed with tendinitis. You might need surgery if it gets worse, so you should probably get it checked at a larger hospital. I was told this at the local clinic and got a referral letter. Then, I headed to the general hospital in the next city. If my wrist pain got any worse, I wouldn't be able to play the piano anymore. And if I can't play the piano, I'd likely lose my job. I didn't know what I would do about my future if that happened. I've only ever played the piano and haven't done any other job, so finding a new job would be difficult. I was anxious before the examination, feeling heavy-hearted. But the doctor, after looking at the x-rays, smiled and said it was okay. Let's just observe for now. If possible, please rest your hand. Try not to play the piano for about a week, and if the pain intensifies, come back for another visit. I was relieved to hear it wasn't severe enough for surgery. And just as I was about to leave the hospital, feeling uplifted, it happened the moment I stepped out of the parking lot. Watch out! I heard a woman scream, and when I turned around in shock, a car was speeding towards me. I thought I needed to run, but my body wouldn't move properly. Then, an immense shock went through my body. It's an accident! Call an ambulance! Get a doctor! I heard various people shouting. And amid my fading consciousness, a familiar voice reached my ears. This is going according to plan. The inheritance will be ours now. Among other voices, I distinctly recognized one I knew well. But I lost consciousness before I could see who it was. 3 days later. When I woke up, the ceiling of the hospital was the first thing I saw. Trying to sit up sent intense pain through my body. Ouch! Miss Turner? Miss Turner, can you hear me? I'll go get the doctor right away, please wait here. I couldn't even respond to the nurse's voice. The nurse hurried out of the room, and then a doctor came running in. Miss Turner, do you know where you are? The hospital? That's right. After your last visit, you were hit by a car and have been hospitalized. You haven't woken up for 3 days, so we were worried about you. I was shocked to hear it had been 3 days, but I couldn't manage to voice my surprise. Then, the nurse and doctor explained the situation to me. I had been hit by a car and suffered multiple fractures throughout my body. I was still in a period where absolute rest was necessary, and I wasn't allowed to get up. You must be bored just lying there. Would you like to watch TV? You can watch it while lying down. The nurse turned on the TV for me so I wouldn't be inconvenienced. At that moment, the news happened to be covering my accident. You probably don't want to watch this, do you? Should I change the channel? No, please let me watch. I couldn't take my eyes off the news. The TV reported a woman who had hit me was arrested for vehicular manslaughter. Seeing the perpetrator's photo, I understood everything. And I was certain that the voice saying we would get the inheritance when I was hit was Ken's. Ken had intentionally hit me with the car for money. However, the news reported that Ken was also in the car but only mentioned that they were just friends. Then the screen switched to Ken. I never imagined the car I was in would cause an accident and hit my wife. I can't sleep because I keep seeing that scene in my dreams. I exploded with anger seeing Ken tearfully speaking in the interview. There was no doubt in my mind that Ken had orchestrated this accident. He had deliberately put me in harm's way for the inheritance and continued to pretend to be a good husband. I couldn't let him have his way anymore and vowed to seek revenge. 4 hours after I woke up, Ken burst into the room, out of breath. Mary! Thank goodness, you're awake! I shook off Ken's hand as he tried to hold mine uninvited. What's wrong? Are you still in pain? Yes, I am. My whole body is in severe pain, and it feels like I'm losing my mind. It's all because of you. What are you talking about? The atmosphere was tense, and even the nearby nurse's expression stiffened. Trying to lighten the mood, Ken cracked a wry smile. Are you still confused? Do you want something to eat? I can go buy it. I don't want anything. Could you please leave the room now? Why are you saying that? Mary, something's off with you. I'm not off. The accident was orchestrated by you for the inheritance, wasn't it? Ken gasped at my accusation. What are you saying? There's no way I would do something like that. Really? Then why did you take out a large life insurance policy a month before the accident? It's strange for someone who said they couldn't afford living expenses because they were broke to be paying for insurance. Well, I was advised it's better to have insurance in case something happens. The person who hit you, she's in insurance sales. She used to work part-time at our place. Ken had given the same explanation when he took out the insurance. They had been close since she worked part-time. And even after she got a job at the insurance company, they kept in touch. She had approached him because no one was signing up, and she was in trouble with her boss, so Ken felt sorry and decided to help by signing up. You know, I make less than you, Mary. So I thought it would be a problem if you couldn't work because of an accident or illness, that's why I only got insurance for you. It's not that strange, is it? His words seemed reasonable, but it didn't sit right with me. You can't even pay your own living expenses, but you can afford insurance premiums? If you have that much money, why don't you pay me back instead? Don't say that. I got the insurance for you, Ken said, holding my hand. His expression seemed genuinely concerned, but I couldn't trust him. If that's the case, you won't mind if the insurance money coming through won't be yours, right? The surgery and hospitalization are going to cost a lot. I'll use the insurance money I got to pay for it, so could you transfer the entire amount to my account? What? All of it? Is that much really necessary? It might be. And if it's not enough, will you pay the difference, Ken? What? Not enough? You've got to be kidding. Ken's face tensed up as he muttered under his breath. And the nurses shot him suspicious glances. I beckoned Ken closer with a gesture. All your lies are in vain. The insurance payout isn't much since I'm alive, and the inheritance is 0. Tough luck, huh? I whispered so only Ken could hear, and he twitched his eyebrows in response. What do you mean 0 inheritance? It means there's almost no savings. Did you think you'd get all my money if I was gone? Why isn't there any? You're a public servant, you make good money, right? Ken's voice started to rise. The nurse overheard Ken's words and frowned. It's because I lent you money, Ken. How much do you think a teacher makes? I'm still in my 20s, I don't earn that much. There are living expenses to pay, and I didn't have any extra money. That's a lie. Then why did I even? Ken bowed his head, overwhelmed. My anger surged at his true colors. You won't get away with this. If it's found out you're an accomplice, you'll be arrested too. That's impossible. Did you see the news? I'm the devoted husband worried about his wife. No one will believe any absurd story you tell. Ken laughed, suggesting people would think I'd lost my mind from the head injury. You can say that now. I replied calmly to Ken's taunts. Suddenly, Ken's expression hardened and he glared at me. Don't get ahead of yourself. You should have just gone to the other world. I despised Ken for saying such a thing so casually. And with a sigh, she awaited the beginning of her revenge. As I sighed, a man in a suit burst into the room. Who are you guys? We're the police. Is what you just said true? Huh? What do you mean? I'm just concerned for my wife. Ignoring Ken's panic, the police officer reached for my bedside. He pulled out a smartphone. That was on a call. We heard everything. Including the part where you said she should have gone to the other world. Why are the police? Ken's face turned pale and he began to tremble. I was the one who called them. I asked for their help to uncover the truth about the accident. Thanks to you, I was able to convey your true character. Officer, this is a misunderstanding. I just lost my temper because I thought Mary was picking a fight, not because I'm after the money. Nobody believes that. Then show evidence that I'm the perpetrator. I glared at Ken, who kicked the bed in frustration, then looked at the police. The person currently arrested is Ken's mistress. They've been close for quite some time. What? Don't make stuff up without evidence. There is evidence. I had hired a detective agency to investigate Ken because he kept asking for money. They found photos of him with her and tracked his activities over the past few months. No use lying. I had started the investigation suspecting Ken might be in debt. But it turned out he was cheating and spending money on drinking in hotels. I recognized her face from the news, which confirmed my suspicions about Ken's involvement in the accident. The police were making a call to search my house. While listening, Ken looked around nervously, sweating. You planned to stage an accident to get the inheritance and insurance money to live with her, didn't you? That's just your delusion. Then the insurance money is mine. Withdraw it and bring it to me now. Ken fell silent and looked down. Even in this situation, he didn't say he would give me the insurance money, raising everyone's suspicion. The police mentioned they were concerned about how much Ken seemed to care for the other woman. That's my friend, of course, I'm worried. You're not angry with her even though your wife is in this condition. And it's strange you were at the hospital that day, at that time. It was a weekday morning when I went to the hospital. I finished my appointment around noon, and Ken should have been getting ready for work. Yet, he was inexplicably in front of the hospital in the next city. It was my day off. On your day off, you were at the hospital? There's nothing around there for you, no shops you'd visit, and you're not a patient there. There must be a reason you were there. Ken couldn't answer and continued to sweat profusely. Then, the police put their hand on Ken's shoulder. I'll need to ask you more about this at the station. Please come with us. No! Wait, please! I'm not guilty. It's all true. It's all just a misunderstanding by Mary. Despite his desperate pleas, the police officer's expression remained stern and serious. Officer, what kind of punishment could Ken face if he planned this accident intentionally? Well, if it was premeditated, he could be charged with attempted murder. But we'll need to hear more to determine that. Attempted murder? Help me! Mary, I'm not guilty! Forgive me! Ken's face turned pale as he struggled against the police officer's grip and clung to my bed. I admit I was wrong before. I cheated, I borrowed money, it was all my fault. But please forgive me. This time, I was just in the car, I'm not to blame. Before I lost consciousness, I heard your voice, Ken. You said we would get the inheritance as planned. How can I forgive someone who does such things for money? As I raised my voice, Ken started making unbelievable claims. Are you sure about this? If I get arrested, it will also reflect poorly on you. It could cause you trouble at work. It's in your best interest to take care of this. Why should I suffer because of your actions? Do you even realize what you've done? I plan to divorce you, and whether you're arrested or not is irrelevant to me. I sighed in disgust at Ken's astonished expression. Wait! What are you talking about divorce at a time like this? How am I supposed to live without you, Mary? I didn't hold back. I don't care. Even if this incident hadn't happened, I was planning to divorce you. I have evidence of your affairs, and I'll be seeking a substantial amount in alimony. Alimony? I can't pay for that. I'll lose my job if I get arrested. That's your problem. You committed a crime, it's only right you face the consequences. You shouldn't have done this if you didn't want to deal with them. As I spoke, Ken collapsed to his knees. I was deceived. They said if I wanted money, I should get insurance and stage an accident. It was supposed to be me driving, but since my license was suspended, she said she would drive. Ken screamed, trying to shift the blame to the woman. Even now, trying to lessen his punishment, Ken's lack of remorse infuriated me. Being deceived or whatever doesn't matter. I'll never forget you saying I should go to the other world. I won't forget those words for the rest of my life. That was just a slip of the tongue. Not what I really meant. I can't believe any word you say anymore. I don't want anything to do with you, and I'll be consulting a lawyer about the divorce. Don't ever contact me again. No! Stop! I'm not guilty! Let me go! Ken started to thrash about, but was warned that he'd be charged with obstructing justice if he continued. Reluctantly, he left the room with the police. The next day, I learned from the news that Ken had been arrested. The man once seen as a grieving, caring husband was now exposed as a villain who plotted murder for insurance money. Over a decade has passed since I heard that Ken was released from prison. He lost his job and has been struggling to find new employment because his criminal record is turning potential employers away. Now, he's working at a convenience store. I saw on social media that he's having a tough time with the many things he has to remember and gets scolded daily. Ken's story was covered by national news, so many people recognized him. Apparently, some even take photos of him without his consent, making him feel even more isolated. The photos show him looking thin and unkempt, a far cry from the handsome guy he was celebrated as during his college days. It's sad to see how much he has changed, but I can never forgive him. I hope he spends his life reflecting on his actions. As for me, I left the school I was working at and moved out of state. Now, I'm teaching piano again. Miraculously, my hands recovered after the accident, allowing me to play piano. I'm now married to a different man, and we have 2 daughters, living happily as a family of 4. When I married Ken, I was swayed by his looks. This experience taught me the valuable lesson that one should never judge a person by their appearance alone. My current husband may not be conventionally handsome, but he is kind, honest, and straightforward. I've vowed to myself to always look beyond appearances and understand a person's true nature.